My guest this week is a high-octane, high-energy drum and bass producer and DJ. She's featured on Radio 1 guest mixes, UKF live streams, played the likes of Made Festival, Bassfest, Tank, Ministry of Sound, and is set for a huge 2022. It's Georgie Riot. Good evening, Georgie. How are you?
Hi, I'm very good, thank you.
What have you been up to today?
Just chilling, really. I had another Zoom call earlier. Saw my mum. Just been working on music, really.
Working on music. We had a phone call earlier in the week. You were working on music. I won't disclose what, but working on music. Is that sort of what takes up most of your time at the moment? Sort of like the week to week?
Yeah, literally all week, really. That's all I do all day. I had to record a mix as well. Well, I've got 3 I need to do, but I did 1 yesterday. So I've got quite a lot going on. Can't really talk about it yet.
Yeah, a lot of NDA and stuff that can't talk about at the moment. Obviously, you're human. Not everybody can work for 24 hours a day. Like, what do you do in your downtime to sort of like relax when you're not producing or when you're not practicing mixes and stuff like that?
I just play a little bit of Call of Duty and Rocket League, really.
Yeah, so get a bit of a gamer.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I do. Watch an occasional series on Netflix.
Yeah.
But that's all I do in my downtime. Oh, I go to the gym. Start going to the gym.
Yeah.
Forgot about that, yeah.
The new 2022 tradition.
Yeah, I've been going 3 times a week. I'm very proud of myself.
Nice. So we started February, so does that mean you've been 3, 6, 9, 12 times at least this year?
Yeah. We'll go with that.
Yeah, we'll just say yeah. We'll go with it. Are you backing yourself as a bit of are you a good gamer then, or not?
Not really, no. I mean, up until lockdown, I hadn't played games ever. I used to have a Game Boy and a Nintendo, but I never played computer games. I play it on my PC, but I've never played Call of Duty or anything like that. So it was all really new. I had to learn all the controls and stuff. Obviously, all my friends have been playing it since they were 12.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was very new for me.
As someone that's in the music industry, do you have you played with anyone else that is in the music industry? I'm trying to go through my head of who I know that sort of games.
I have indeed. So my boyfriend is Suki, and he's constantly playing games. I've played with him, Subsonic, Holy Goof, Chris Lorenzo. Okay. I'm trying to think who else. There's other people, but I can't remember. It's just because they're
now. Who's top tier out of everyone?
My boyfriend is
really,
and that's not.
He'll support that. He'll
that's not me being biased either. That he's really good. I don't know how he's so good. He's good at everything, any game.
Okay, good at producing, good at DJing, and good at games as well.
It's quite annoying, really. I'm save it for someone else.
Oh, well, at least I think people listening will be interested to know who sort of plays together and who's playing online together, and will be like, oh, that's pretty mad.
Yeah.
Do you I don't know, do you is there a group chat that you're all jumping on and being like, right, I know we're producing at the moment or something like that, but do everyone want to go on there, or is it just as and when?
We've got a Discord. There's a Discord group.
Gamers.
But I'm not always in the Discord group. We've got separate ones. We've got lots of different ones, but I'm not in the group with the bigger DJs.
There's even a VIP area in a Discord chat. Never mind the club or backstage or even the VIP areas where you're like, nah, sorry, you can't get into this one. You're not on the list.
I think it's because they're all really close friends, and I'm obviously a newbie, so I'm just tag along with Dom.
You might be looking too deep into it. You know what? It might be, and I don't know because I haven't played with it, but you might just be rubbish at games.
I'm quite bad, but there's a couple people that are quite bad, but I don't think I should say it.
Okay. You don't want to throw anyone under the bus. Never mind to do with DJing or anything. They're shit at COD. You don't want to be saying that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well that's a nice little peek behind the curtain. I'm going, you know what? It doesn't stop. It doesn't even stop backstage or in the club. You still get left out in the cold sometimes, even when you're fucking playing FIFA or playing Call of Duty.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
We mentioned some of your accolades right at the start, the places that you played, some of the big names, some of the stuff that we're going to discuss later on in the podcast that you've got coming up in 2022. But to throw it all the way back to the start, what was sort of what were your earliest influences or earliest sort of welcomes into music? So whether it was around the house or whether it's sort of the first gigs and raves that you were going to, what was it that sort of lit that fire of interest?
So I grew up listening to like a lot of bands, like alternative bands, like My Chemical Romance, Enter Shikari. I don't know if you know any of these, like proper
I do, absolutely.
emo alternative bands. My mum used to take me to gigs from like the age of 12. So I was like a proper little, like a, I don't know, like a little, I was going to say emo, but it's probably not the best word. I was listening to bands.
That was a collection of people, wasn't it? Like, that's fine to say.
Yeah, it
that's
was the time. Yeah. But yeah, so I did that. I always loved music, and in secondary school I did music as a GCSE. I played the drums. I was in the school band.
Nice.
Wasn't so cool back then, or now.
I've got a question about that, the school band, because I'm thinking my band, like I went to school, but I did go to school. My school didn't have a school band. Like, what was the premise of, like, when did you guys play together as a school band? Like, what are you doing? Like, performing gigs, or is it like strictly Christmas concerts?
I think I can't really remember much from my childhood at all, really. But I know that we did, like, there was some assembly performances, and like at events they did after school kind of thing. It was one of them things.
Yeah.
But it was always in the school. I can't remember ever playing anywhere else with band.
Yeah. Is that where you sort of got your first taste of, like, rush of, like, audience reception, audience reaction here? Like, you're crashing away on the drums.
I didn't like it. I didn't like performing in front of anyone, especially in the band. Like, I feel like I got pushed into doing it because I did music, you know.
Okay.
And you know, I was kind of up for anything, but I kind of part of me didn't want to do it at the same time. Got quite bad anxiety, so performing in front of like the whole school was quite stressful for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
how did you sort of like combat then? Like, was it just being a case of being thrown at the deep end? You were sort of like, right, I've got to play this now, or like, obviously we'll get.
It was kind of one of them things where I'd committed to it. I was like, right, I said I'd do it, so now I've got to do it. So. Yeah. But it wasn't that deep. It was all right. I got through it, you know.
Nice. And do you still? I mean, we can talk about it or not. If it depends how comfortable you feel now. Do you still sort of feel anxious now on stage when you're like playing out, or like if you're playing at events?
Yeah, I do. I get quite. Used to have like panic attacks quite a lot. Okay. Right from the start when I started DJing and performing in front of people. I didn't even like performing in front of my friends at home. Like when my friends would come over and would have like a little party.
Yeah, and
I didn't want to DJ in front of anyone, even though a lot of them couldn't DJ anyway. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I'm good now though. Like I've progressed and I'm not nervous anymore.
Yeah.
I am still a bit nervous before going on stage though. It does.
Do you think that just comes down to the regularity of like how regularly you're playing out now, and like it's just like repeated behaviour? So you're like, okay, I feel comfortable with this now because I'm so used to this experience.
Yeah, everyone said it would get better. Like everyone was like, oh, the more you do it, the easier it'll get. And I was like, oh, well, it doesn't seem to be getting any easier yet. And then as time went on, and now I am doing like every weekend shows kind of thing, it is a lot easier now. I still do get quite nervous. Like I played in Oxford on Saturday, and yeah, it was sold out, and I was just, I don't know, I just psyched myself up and was just a bit nervous for it. And I was making everyone else nervous, like the MC. The MC in the dressing room, he was like, stop it, you're making me nervous now. And it's funny. But as soon as I get on stage, like it's fine. Like it just goes away and the adrenaline kicks in and you're just fine.
Yeah. We've had a couple of people on the podcast talk about play. I don't know. So if this put my foot in my mouth, I apologise. But a couple of people are talking about playing whilst having a drink. Sometimes, like, so some like, well, they'll comfortably be like, yeah, I have a couple of drinks before I play out live, and like a couple of drinks, and then there's other people that I've spoken to that are like, no, I literally like I don't touch a drop of drink until after the set, and they feel more comfortable and they feel more like both ways makes some people feel more comfortable and confident. Either like somebody's going to be totally sober, so they know that they're not going to fuck up because they're not drunk, and then vice versa. Sometimes, obviously, people get a little bit of Dutch courage and they're like, right, I'll get into my system and like that. Have you? Do you feel like that sort of an impact? Does that impact your sort of performances at all? Like, would you sort of like? Are you comfortable like to have a drink sort of like when you're playing out and about, or is it like actually no, I'm not touching anything until after my set?
I tend to drink a lot of Red Bull during my sets. So I'll drink. I'll have like one drink with alcohol in it, a bit of vodka, a bit of Red Bull. I'll have one when I'm mixing. and also a lot of Red Bull, just Red Bull on its own. And then afterwards, if I stay and I'm having like I tend to go home after, but I do. I tend to go home, unless there's like something else going on. Like,
so then, sort of, how did you? So you were going to, as you said in your phrase, you were in your emo stage, when you were younger, seeing the bands, get your mum's taking you to gigs. How did you then sort of, like, you were in the band, obviously at school, drumming, which I will get onto a little bit later as well. I just wanted to discuss something about that. How did you sort of then move or get an interest into sort of like electronic music? Or drum and bass specifically, or something like that?
I don't know. I just started listening to dance music. My mum's always been a like proper old school trance raver. So she kind of, whilst I was also listening to bands at the time, I was listening to trance music. There was like two sides of it. And yeah, I just started listening to a lot of trance and hard house. And I remember when, I think it was about in 2008, like dubstep became really mainstream, and I became like obsessed with Skrillex. And I think from then on, I just went down the route of dance floor, dance.
So what was his first EP? Was it like Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites, that one?
I don't know what his first one was, but I think that was the one that got me interested. Yeah, I always knew I wanted to work in the music industry, but I didn't really know how to go about it. So after I finished school, I went to college and studied music technology, and I decided that I wanted to become like a producer and sound engineer. I did 2 years of that, and then I had like a little bit of a, not a mental breakdown, but a little bit of a panic as to what I was going to do with my future, because there was all this pressure on me to get a real job. People always say you need like stability. So the plan was to go to uni and study like music production, sound engineering. But instead, I went and did a foundation year in health and social care. And I decided I wanted to be a nurse. So I did that year, and then to gain access onto a nursing course, because obviously doing music at college, that couldn't get me onto a nursing course. So I took the year doing that. Then I took a year out and worked on a mental health ward. And then after that, I got accepted to do nursing, and I waited until about 3 weeks before, and then cancelled. I cancelled the course and went into modelling full time.
Okay, was that because you knew that your heart wasn't necessarily in the nursing sort of side of things?
I think so, yeah. I think I was doing it because I felt as though I needed stability, and I needed something that would, last you all your life as a job. Because like music, I was like, it's not very stable. It's not, I just didn't know where to go with it, I wanted to go into events management at one point.
So sort of combining that stability of job, but also music.
Yeah, but then my sister made the point that if I was going to do events management, like music management, she was like, you might as well go to uni and just do management or something instead of the music side of it. And I would always listen to people around me, like, I don't know, sometimes I feel like you shouldn't listen, you should just do what you need to do. Because I think deep down I knew I wanted to go into music, because that's why I kept going off on these different paths and then coming back, and I've finally come back to it, and I feel like I'm in the right place now. Like I'm happy with where I'm going.
How did you then sort of decide, you know what, I'm gonna start mixing? Like, what was it that made you sort of go like, I'm not doing this on my course, but I've got a really big interest in this. This is my passion for it. I want to get a set of decks. I want to start producing bits and pieces like myself. So
it was like fast forward maybe 5 years, just over 5 years.
What was sorry, just to go back there, between you said there was like 5 years, and you mentioned earlier about modelling. What were you doing between sort of like the time that you finished that course and then the start of lockdown 2019, when you decided to get a pair of decks?
Yeah, so I just decided that I didn't want to do the nursing course, so I cancelled it and I went into modelling full time for 5 years. I even opened up my own agency, which I still run. I've got 2 people that run it with me. And yeah, so I just modelled, did a lot of hair modelling. But yeah, it was good. I'd got to like the top of my game in the hair modelling scene kind of thing. But then
what classes is there? How do you sort of, because like I'll be totally transparent with you. I've not had that many people on the podcast that have on the podcast that's come out and been like, I've done modelling before, so I sort of want to delve a tiny little bit into that. Just number one, what's the, without sounding like too cliche, what would you say like you sort of learned from your 5 years of modelling? And then sort of when you say you're at the top of your game, like top of the hair bonding game there, how do you sort of classify sort of like what the top is and like how you sort of put yourself?
So top of the game. This is funny, this conversation. So I just was getting booked a lot with a lot of the clients, like all the clients in like the hair industry. I say.
Can we shout out anybody that sort of people would have heard of, or are they
just
like
all the general like Tony and Guy, Schwarzkopf, Redken,
big hair models,
Goldwell, just all of the hair companies. So like they all shoot every year, like it's the British Hairdressing Awards. It's like a big hairdressing competition, and they just book models and you'd shoot photos for it. And, the winner gets a big prize, and you're crowned the hairdresser of the year.
And you're one of them.
But basically I was getting just booked on a lot of shoots. Everyone was just booking me. It was great, and I was making a lot of money from it. But then the contrast from like leaving that kind of industry, I mean I still do a little bit of modeling here and there, but I don't want that to be my career anymore. So I've gone from like being at the top of my game in modeling to being right at the bottom of the music industry, and I'm having to work right from the bottom again, getting paid like virtually nothing. Like some of the first shows I did were just free, So I've gone from having a good stable income to going to nothing again, starting from the beginning. So that's been quite hard.
That definitely highlights your passion though. Like you were saying there, knowing actually in your truth of truths what you do want to do. That definitely does, like you said, if a lot of people will define success in different ways, like different bits and pieces. It might be sort of like how much money you earn, or it might be sort of like, I don't know, where you live, or it might be like sort of like how happy you are in life, or other bits and pieces, stuff like that. For you to obviously like say there, like I was doing really great modeling, like I was making great income and stuff like that. But
you only get so far with it though. That's the thing. Okay. You have to plan. Everyone's always like asking like, what are you going to do in the future though, And I'd always just say, if I want, I can go to uni and do the nursing course that I put off. But I mean, then I'd just say that to get people off my back. But then in my head, I'd be thinking, what am I going to do? Because, like modeling, I'm 25 now. That's old in modeling.
Is it?
Yeah.
I've literally done like
when I started, it was like I was like 14, maybe 14 to 16. And then I was the young one on the shoots, there'd be older people and I'd be the baby. Everyone would be looking after me like, oh, she's a cute new face. But now like I'm the old one. And there's all these 16-year-olds and stuff like on shoots, and I'm just like, wow. I mean, it's still young, but in the modeling world, it's not really, unless you're one of these women who manage to be, that the 90, not 90, but like 70-year-old models that just smash it. But I feel like I'm not going to age that well. Not with all the late nights DJing anyway.
Yeah, all those Red Bulls, all those Red Bulls.
Yeah. What's this?
There you go. It's straight on camera. She's addicted. It's interesting that you've gone for like two, like you obviously really, really evidently, seriously, like it's great that you've gone down to sort of like two routes.
Creative routes.
Sort of, and then sort of, but then also like come back across and be like, no, I do absolutely want to do music, because there's a lot of people that will like. And there's no issue with it, because everyone's obviously got their own circumstances. But there's a lot of people that obviously get comfortable in a situation, and then they realise that they're not necessarily happy in it, but don't necessarily feel comfortable enough to like be able to go, you know what, I need to change this because of X, Y, Z, or I'm not really totally 100% true. So it's
I know a lot of people. Sorry, I've got to say things before I forget, because I've got a terrible memory. I've got a couple of friends who say they want to do this and that, like they work like normal 9-to-5 jobs, and they want to do things like wrapping cars, or like
decor, like
or like work in a, like, well, not work, but like own like a clothing store and stuff. And I'm just like always telling people, you need to do it. Just if you've literally got one life. It sounds so cheesy, but you should just do it. If you have to just quit your job and have no income for a while, save up, plan ahead, save up a lot of money, and then make the change. That's what I did anyway, because I went from having an income, like I said, to nothing. I was making no money. The past like 2 years, I made no money. And I had the time in lockdown to change my career path again. But yeah.
Do you reckon if lockdown hadn't have happened, that you would have changed the career?
I think I would have, yeah. Lockdown just made it a little bit easier for me. Like I loved lockdown. I know a lot of people had a hard time, but I liked having that extra time locked in the house to work on music. But the first year I just practiced DJing every day. because I went into lockdown hardly knowing how to DJ. I remember I had 2 small shows at local clubs just before lockdown happened, at like just local places, tiny little bars in Coventry, 1 little club and 1 little bar.
Give them a shout out.
So the first one was at the Casbah in Coventry, and I was it was like a big day event at the day session events they do. And I was in the garden in the smoking area. That was the tiny stage. I was on this.
Nice.
Yeah. So I was.
You know what though? Guaranteed to always be busy.
Yeah, exactly. And it actually popped off. It was really good. And obviously it was a hometown show, so loads of people I knew were there. And then the second one was another tiny little place in Carve called Ivy House.
So like you were practicing, like you said there in lockdown, practicing daily. Did the first couple of sets at the local bars in Coventry.
Yeah.
And then what was sort of like the next steps for sort of like what was sort of the next sort of progression steps in your career? Sort of like, did you then sort of progress into like bigger clubs and like bigger events, or was it that you then started to like dabble more in producing and went down that route?
No, so well, we had the 2 shows and then we went into lockdown. So I just continued to practice for about a year. So that was like end of 2019. Wait, hold on. What are we in now? 2022. So 2019 to 2020. Yeah. So that whole year I was just mixing. And then I was posting like on videos on Instagram and Facebook of live streams and stuff, doing little live streams and just posting the clips and trying to build a following. And that took a while.
So for people listening to, because there'll be people listening to that'll be interested in that, because that's sort of the steps that they'll be sort of currently going through, or that's the sort of steps that they'll be looking to go through. Are we talking there sort of like, how regularly do you reckon you were posting? Sort of like, are we talking daily? Or are we talking weekly?
A couple times a week.
Yeah.
Maybe. Or maybe a bit longer than that. If you can do it, the more the better. But yeah.
Like live streams, so when you say like live streaming there, was it like camera set up a tripod in the house, like doing mixes, just like blends and stuff on the CDJs and stuff?
Yeah, and I'd just do it for an hour. And try and make it as best mix as possible. Like I'd plan my mix and all my favourite blends, and and then get all the clips of it and upload it as a swipe on Instagram.
Like carousel.
Yeah, and then people started sharing them, like D&B pages, the D&B accounts that share things and tag you. Yeah. So that's how I built my following. I'm trying to think how I started getting shows. I just messaged people on Instagram, messaged a couple places.
And so there will be people sort of like thinking like, oh God, I feel not like, I don't feel like I feel nervous or like that to message people. I feel nervous to send a DM. I feel nervous to that. So is that what you reckon? Sort of like that. That's what you like. You're saying that you did. Like you did reach out to those people and were like, oh, can I have a set? Can we have a warm up set? Or can we have like bits and pieces like that? So you feel like it was being active in sort of like, I want this to happen, so I'm going to actively sort of make it work.
I'm one of them people that just goes out and contacts people and asks, because my mum always used to say, if you don't ask, you don't get,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good way of doing it. What can they do? Say no or just not reply?
That's it, isn't it? At the end of the day, literally like, say no, and then you're just like, well, I mean, that's fine. It's slightly bruised ego if that's the worst thing that's going to happen. Yeah.
So, yeah. And then after that, I got an agent, and he just started getting me more bookings. They just come in the more you do, I suppose. And then getting videographers. I always try and book a videographer for the good shows, the ones that I know are going to be good, because that's what gets you bookings, really. If you're just DJing, you got to. I think a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people, same with modeling. And there was a lot of models who used to not promote themselves online as well. But yeah, you've got to do that.
That's interesting that you've got you've had that experience in like obviously two careers, and it's great that you obviously could take that, what you learned from modelling and the like you said, the marketing, building an image, building a brand, and everything like that, and being able to transfer that across to artistry and being able to transfer that across to being a DJ and producing and stuff as well. Because like you said, there are people out there, like there's loads of people that you think like they make fucking sick music, but I know nothing about them. Half the time, like you don't know what they look like. Like, I've seen this name pop up a million times, but I have no idea. It's sort of like the OGs, like from the general base.
You've got to build a brand, a sellable brand as well. Yeah, I think.
What's sort of like the worst thing that's happened to you at an event?
Right at the beginning, near the beginning of like my DJing career. I mean, I'm still at the beginning of my DJing career, but I mean, like, as in last year when I first started doing shows. So I was doing a show for like virtually nothing. I was just getting like my travel covered. But it was like a big show, big stage, big company. And I need to think how I'm going to word all of this. Everything's fine now. I'm just going to say that. Everything's
everything's calm.
Yeah, everything's fine now. We've all made up. But they took 15 minutes off my set, and I was doing the close-in slot, like 4 till 5 a.m. And I wasn't getting paid for this. And they texted me when I was on the way to the club in a car, in an Uber. And I was annoyed. So I was like, okay, whatever, you know. I mean, it was the promoter who texted me this, and I said, okay, whatever. As in, like, I didn't mean it in like a stroppy way. I just meant like, okay, whatever, like, you know, shit happens kind of thing. But then the promoter was like very intoxicated, and he like completely lost it. And when I got there, I waited 20 minutes for my set ready to start. And then when I went on stage in front of a sold out venue, he said, no, like, you're not playing your set. And he started swearing at me. And I was like in tears. So I left. He was like, go home, you're not playing. And it was like, it was getting really aggressive, and it was just really stressful. And he'd had a really bad week. And he knows that you can't excuse speaking to people like that. Like, he was just like, you know, when it's at the end of the night, he was really drunk, whatever. But he just lost it, basically. He'd had a lot of pressure on him during the week. And so I went home, and then he was texting me really horrible things, like really abusive things.
After you'd gone?
Yeah. And I hadn't replied. I'd not texted anything. Like, this was over one tiny little thing that he'd misconstrued. So yeah, and it was really stressful. And the next day, he called me and like sorted it all out and apologized. And they gave me bookings in the future. They've given me bookings since then, and everything's fine. You know, it was one of them that it was a nightmare night that just went completely wrong. You know, how what I've learned from that is like, just to have to be careful what you say, because people, like promoters especially, don't know you as a person, and they don't know your personality. Yeah, like so that obviously. Yeah, when you read a text as well, you don't know how that's coming across. So when you say something like that, people can misread it. And I mean, the reaction either way, however I'd said it, the reaction of him was not acceptable in any way. Like the things he said and stuff, like it was awful. But you just got to be careful what you say, because people don't know you and don't know how you're saying it. You know, they don't know what you mean by things. And yeah, I mean, everything's fine. It's not like any relationships were ruined. It's all good. But yeah.
Just, you haven't got to tell, you haven't got to say who it is. And if you did, obviously we'd cut it out of the podcast anyway. But you had walked onto the stage at this point?
Yeah. I'd walked on the stage with my headphones around my neck and my USB. And he started throwing his arms around and was like, you think you're playing your set now? In front of everyone. And I had people that had like travelled quite far, like a couple hours, to see me play. But yeah,
that is mad.
It is a bit mad.
That is absolutely mad. I sort of do want to ask you. No, I just want to ask. Is it like?
I can't tell you.
You can't. You're not.
No, I can't tell you. I can't know.
That's mad though. Yeah, that's not exactly what you want in the music industry at all.
No, but that's the only one thing.
I'm bemused, like just because we're listening. What happened next then? Did somebody else like cover that slot, or did he just go end of the event? Like if you were playing like the last slot, like when you said he cut 15 minutes off, what I was going to ask is, did he cut 15 minutes off because you were at the end of the set, like the end of the night? I'm trying to wrap my head around why he did that.
There was a big artist headlining, and then after them was the promoter DJing as well, because he's a DJ and promoter.
Yeah.
And then after was me, and basically the headliner wanted an extra like half an hour, so the promoter said he'd take half off his slot, half off my slot. And I was just thinking, like, the way I saw it was, I'm doing this for free. I'm travelled, and I had work the next morning. I had a shoot on the Sunday morning at 9 a.m. in London, and I was on at 4 till 5 a.m. at this other show, and I had to, obviously a 2-hour train ride to London the next day. So I was like basically running off. I was going to have no sleep for the next day. I didn't need to take the show because I wasn't getting paid. It was just going to be great because I had a videographer. My videographer came with me. I had everything.
Oh no!
Yeah. So thankfully my videographer didn't charge me. Because obviously I was in tears. Like everyone felt so bad for me. Yeah.
So Georgie, you recently released a BBC One guest mix.
Yes, I have. Yeah. It's really good. It was great.
Tell me about, because
such an honour.
Such an honour. It is. Do you know what? We're laughing and smiling and joking there, but it is an honour. I feel like it's an incredible thing. Yeah. It's a pinnacle thing. It's the type of thing where you go, like we're going, how do you judge success earlier? And everyone will judge it in a different way. And some people are saying you get those sort of brands, you get those names where it's like, even my nan would know what BBC Radio 1 is. Like you get to those points where you're like, even like the person, anyone, you could straw poll anybody in the street. The likelihood is that they're going to know what BBC Radio 1 is. So when you create a piece of content for them, and when you're asked to create a piece of content, it's like, shit, okay, regardless of however you recognise success, or regardless of however you recognise sort of like how well I'm doing in life, this is a pretty good indicator of like, this is sick, this is a big thing.
I know,
how do you sort of go into organising a guest mix and a structure and a mix like that? Because obviously, I would say, not obviously, but I'd say there's a little bit of pressure. There's a little bit of pressure on it, isn't it? It's quite a big, it's a very big thing to do. So like sort of what is going through your mind when you're like, right, I'm putting this guest mix together. I need a little bit of this and I need a little bit of that. And then sort of how did it sort of come around?
So I'll start off by how it came around was Charlie G, who you interviewed the other day.
I did, yes.
So she just messaged me on Instagram and was like, are you free to do a guest mix? And I was like, yeah, sure, what's it for? And I think I said yeah before she even told me what it's for. And then she was like, oh, Radio 1. And I was like, oh, so casual, like Radio 1. I was like, stop it. I was like, you're having a laugh. And she was like, yeah, I'm sitting in for Rennie. And she was like, I think you'd be a great person for it. And I was just like, 100%. I think I did it there and then. Like I went and started preparing and had it recorded and sent to her the next day. I was very eager. I didn't want to
turn around.
I'm super quick.
You were like, no take backs. Yeah. Like you said it now. Type of thing.
I mean, I'm at home all week just doing music. So like, if someone asked me to do something, I usually do it.
If you were to discuss, like we've discussed, sort of like how important branding and image to DJ, how important making that first contact and reaching out is, because not necessarily everybody's going to come out to you. Like you said, you've got to work hard. Like from your personal experience, you were in an industry and you were recognised and you were doing fantastically in the industry. You shifted industries and you were like, I know that I need to sort of take one step back here to potentially go 5 steps, 6 steps, 7 steps, however many steps forward you need to, type thing. What sort of one piece of advice you would give to people that are listening to that might be sort of, I'm in an iron about whether they're going down the right industry, or I'm in an iron about whether they should reach out to this person to be like, you know what, can I have a warm-up set? Or like, you know what, can I get on this lineup? Or do you know what, like, can you listen to this song? Or like, just like literally listen to this SoundCloud mix, listen to this type thing. What advice would you sort of give to people that might be sitting on the fence or might be sort of in their own mind anxious or sort of nervous about taking that initial step?
I'd just say do it, like you've got nothing to lose by doing that. If you don't put yourself out there, people aren't gonna like take you seriously or notice you. They're not going to notice you. You've got to shout about yourself. You've got to be like your own number one fan. I feel like that's been my like motto throughout my whole life. Like you've got to be your own number one fan, because you got to cheer for yourself. Not everyone's always going to be there cheering for you, and you got to push yourself. I think that's, I've held myself back. I always sit here and think, what could I have done if I'd gone straight from college and continued with music and gone? I would have had like 5 years experience by now. Instead, I'm 25 and I'm just going into this now. And a lot of people I know have been doing it since they were like 19, 20, So, I mean, it's still not, you can go into this type of career at any time, It lasts a long time. There's people that are DJing and producing that are old, but they're the legends, But yeah, I just say go for it, because the more time you waste, that's just time gone that you could be doing something with.
That's good advice. That's good advice to anybody listening and watching there. Georgie Riot, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.